You're watching the ANEC Sports Podcast on YouTube. The show starts right now. Welcome to episode 12 of the ANEC Sports Podcast. My name is Sam Frick, founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, covering 30 schools across Northeast Indiana and parts of Elkhart County. That includes the ACAC, the Northeast 8, and the NECC. So it's been a couple weeks since our last episode, but we have a busy lineup of guests here today, so we're going to make this first section of the video quite short here today because there's a lot of information to process, and we want you to get to the interviews smoothly here. So without further ado, let's get to the talk around the corner. A lot of action occurred over the past couple weeks, and we'll go ahead and begin with what happened just this past weekend with cross country. Congratulations to all the local cross country runners and boys and girls on advancing to regionals, including our notable sectional champions, Noah Bontrager of Westview, Trevor Schwartz of Adams Central, as well as Kenya Leach of Columbia City, Rowan Norris of Leo, and I think I'm missing one more person off the top of my head. Let me go ahead and just check here real quick just to make sure. I don't want to forget anybody else here. And Andrew Strong of Eastside also was a sectional champion as well. They will compete in regionals next weekend as they look to make it to get a spot in the state finals. Also, we also had soccer sectionals regionals the past couple weeks, to which on the boys' side, Bethany Christian, Westview won their sectionals again. They repeated sectional champions Angola with their first sectional championship since 2009 with a 4-1 win over the West Noble Chargers, beating Garrett, Bishop Wayner, and West Noble Process at Lakeland. Their first sectional title since 2009. We will be speaking with Ryan Stellhorn of the Angola Hornets to reflect on that season as well. We also want to congratulate the girls' soccer teams of winning their sectional championship as well, including the Westview Lady Warriors and the Belmont Braves. Belmont came back from an early deficit against Canterbury to defeat the Cavaliers 3-2 in the sectional championship hosted by the Norwell Knights. Westview won their championship match in penalty kicks over Trinity Greenlawn. And also, I just want to make sure I quickly go back to the boys real quick. Congratulate the Jay County Patriots on a tremendous season. They not only repeated as ACAC champions, they also won their first sectional since 2022 in a win over Eastbrook in penalty kicks. Eastbrook previously was undefeated. Jay County defeated the Eastbrook Panthers in PKs to win that sectional championship. As far as regionals went for soccer, unfortunately, some of the teams were unable to win a regional championship over the weekend, including the Belmont Braves. They fell at the hands of Mishawaka Marion 4-0 after defeating Concordia in penalty kicks a few nights earlier. I believe that was on Wednesday, in which Laney French scored the match-deciding PK in the PK shootout to defeat the Concordia Cadets. As far as Westview is concerned, Westview did win the regional by shutting out LaVille 4-0 and Wheeler 2-0. So Westview is in the semi-state. They will take on Faith Christian for a chance to play in their very first state finals hosted by IU Indianapolis. But for them to do that, they must take care of business against a really talented Faith Christian squad. On the boys' side, Jay County saw their season come to an end at the hands of a very good Park Tudor team 4-1. So Jay County's special season ends in the regional semifinals, as well as the same case for the Angola Hornets. They led 2-0 to start that match against Concordia. Concordia with a brilliant comeback to defeat the Angola Hornets 3-2. So Angola finished their season with the most wins in the history of the program at 17-4. They scored the most goals ever for the program. They gave up the fewest goals ever for the program, according to Coach Stellhorn. And a tremendous feat, no less, for the Angola Hornets win their first sectional since 2009. Also, Bethany Christian repeated as regional champions for the third year in a row by defeating Wheeler in double overtime 1-0, as well as defeating Westview in regulation 1-0 on a goal from Sawyer Beachy. So Bethany Christian is one win away from returning to the state finals for the second year in a row, to which they won state last season. They are going to be taking on Covenant Christian, which I believe has only lost one match all season long. So Bethany Christian is going to have their hands full again, just like last year when they took on Park Tudor. Same is going to be the case for the matchup against Covenant Christian, as Bethany Christian looks to punch their ticket to the state finals for the second year in a row. Also, girls volleyball had sectionals over the weekend. We want to congratulate the Fremont Eagles and win their first ever sectional championship by sweeping the Lakewood Park Christian Panthers at Hamilton. Addie Parr and Claire Folk both set new program records for kills and assists, respectively, in their seasons. So Fremont continues their historic season as they will take on South Newton on Saturday for a chance to win their first ever regional championship. By the way, it's at LaPorte, so the time zone is going to be different for them since they're in the central time zone. So please pay attention on the time zone that LaPorte's in and make sure you are picking the actual time in the Eastern time zone. Don't pay too much attention to the Central time zone. Get the Eastern time zones. Make sure you get the right times in place so you don't forget that matchup between Fremont and South Newton. Also in Class 2A, in addition to defending state champion Southwood, advancing the regionals with a 32-0 record after dominating their sectional over Wabash and Oak Hill. 2A 36, I should say. Woodland won their first sectional since 2013 by defeating the South Adams Starfires in 5 sets, including the fifth set 15-11. Alyssa Anderson with 28 kills and 8 blocks in that championship match. They led 2 sets to 0 to begin the match. South Adams came back to force a fifth set, and so Woodland was able to pull away and in that fifth set to win the sectional championship. So the ACAC had 3 different moments in that season, a different ACAC tournament champion with Adams Central, repeating a ACAC regular season champion in South Adams, and then you had Woodland, and then we'll talk about Heritage later on, both winning sectional championships. So congratulations to Woodland on a sectional championship, as well as the case for Lakeland. That's going to be Woodland's next opponent in regionals. Lakeland defeated Prairie Heights in 4 sets in the semifinals before defeating Westview 4 sets after trailing the first set and trailing by 8 or 9 points in the 4th set to win their first sectional since 1999. It's also their very 2A sectional championship in girls volleyball. So Lakeland and Woodland will face off for a chance to win a regional championship at Northwood. Woodland, the previous 2 times they've won a sectional, they've won a regional as well. Lakeland has never won a regional in girls volleyball. In fact, Lakeland rarely ever wins a regional championship, regardless of sports. So this is a big moment for these 2 programs as they hope to punch their ticket to semi-state after this Saturday. Again, that match will take place at Northwood up in the Elkhart area. Also, we want to look at Class 3A, and we want to congratulate first with the Heritage Patriots in 2A Sectional 22 by defeating the Norwell Knights in 5 sets. They led 2 sets to none. Norwell came back to force a 5th set. Norwell led 10-6 in the 5th set. Heritage came back to win that 5th set 15-12 and winning their first sectional championship since 2006, only their 2nd sectional title in the last 40-plus years for the Heritage Patriots. It's their first ever 3A sectional championship. Heritage is going to be taking on Newcastle, a team that defeated Jay County in the sectional finals, also has 24 wins on the season. So now you have Heritage with a chance to make more history for that volleyball program. So congratulations to the Heritage Patriots. I will be speaking, though, with the head coach of the losing team in that sectional finals, Kayla Hunter, as they reflect on a strong season for the Norwell Knights. Also, we want to mention 3A Sectional 21. Angola wins their 4th consecutive sectional championship, thanks to sweeping the Leo Lions in the first round, sweeping Bishop Dwayner in the semifinals, and then lastly sweeping the Concordia Cadets in the finals, all in 3 sets. These are 3 really good programs that they just swept in this sectional, including with Bishop Dwayner, who they lost in the regular season in 4 sets, and Concordia, a team that forced them to go 5 sets in the regular season. So congratulations to the Angola Hornets, led by Maya Harris, the Illinois commit, who had 23 kills and right around 4 aces in that championship match against Concordia that allowed the Angola Hornets to have an opportunity to potentially hoist a regional championship, something that no other Angola team has ever done in volleyball, not even Morgan Garding, not even Maya Ball, not even Kate Snyder, not even Loy Ball himself. None of these players on the past Angola teams have ever won a regional championship up to this point, and now they have an opportunity to do something that's never happened before in this program, and they'll be taking on West Lafayette at Southwood, which is down the southern tip of the Wabash County area, on Saturday. West Lafayette's a very good program with 25 wins on the season, I believe. Angola's 29-4 coming in. Angola's also ranked 7th in Class 3A. West Lafayette not too far behind them as well. So this should be a really good matchup down in Southwood to see whether or not Angola can hoist a regional championship for the very first time. Also want to mention, worthy of note here, Northwood, who's ranked 4th in Class 3A. They took care of business in the sectional finals against West Noble, the host, to which Northwood defeated the Chargers in 4 very close sets to win their 6th consecutive sectional championship. West Noble finished the season with 24 wins on the season, which is about 15, 16 win improvement from the previous season. So congratulations to West Snowball on a strong season. Congratulations to Northwood as well on their 6th consecutive sectional championship. This is a matchup to keep an eye on as Northwood will take on New Prairie in the regional hosted by Northwood themselves. We could see a potential Angola Northwood sectional semi-state matchup, say Northwood and Angola are able to win the regional, but obviously they got to take care of business in regionals first. Lastly, want to mention the schools in 4A. We want to congratulate Homestead and Carroll on winning their sectional championships. Homestead ended Belmont's streak of 19 consecutive sectional championships by beating them in 4 sets. Homestead defeated Wayne in the finals to win their 6th consecutive sectional championship. They'll take on the 3rd-ranked team in Class 4A, the Carroll Chargers, who swept Snyder and Northup to win their 16th consecutive sectional title, the new longest active streak in Northeast Indiana for volleyball sectional championships. These two teams will solve each other on Saturday at Homestead for a regional championship. Keep in mind that these two teams met in the regular season despite the fact they're no longer in a conference, and Carroll held on to defeat the Homestead Spartans in a 5-set thriller. We could see something similar to that on Saturday. And lastly, the Warsaw Tigers win their 3rd consecutive sectional title by sweeping the Northridge Raiders and the Concord Minutemen to win their 3rd consecutive sectional title. They're going to be taking on a really strong program out of the region, Crown Point, on Saturday at Twin Lakes. That's nearby the West Lafayette area there. And so Warsaw will be a team to keep an eye on in the 4A playoffs for those in Northeast Indiana that are following the Warsaw Tigers. And that, folks, is the talk around the corner. Stay tuned. I will also have content that I will be breaking down each of the area football sectionals. I will also be discussing the volleyball regional matchups as well as some of the remaining soccer pairings for semi-state as well. But without further ado, let's get to our interviews. I'm here with the head girls basketball coach of the East Snowball Knights, Britton Isaacs. Britton, thank you for coming on the show, and how are things going for you?
Good. How about you?
Doing great. Britton, let's talk about the preseason, right, for this East Snowball team. This is your 2nd season with the East Snowball girls basketball team after posting a 13-9 record, which is an 8-win improvement from the previous season. Britton, when you assess things between what it was last year and going into this year, where have you what things have you seen the most improvement, or where have you learned from year 1 to year 2?
I think the biggest thing that we've learned is how to play in the system that I'm trying to push. We're trying to play a lot faster basketball than previous years before me, and not only that, but make every girl on the court a threat. I think that's something that's super important in today's game of basketball, where every girl needs to be able to shoot and score and be able to attack the basket. But I think after how young we were last year, we had all sophomores, freshmen, and 2 seniors. They're all a year older too, so that helps with a lot of things, especially maturity.
Mm-hmm. And maturity is definitely one thing that describes this East Snowball team. This is a team that did lose a couple seniors off of last year's team, one and especially being Peyton Quaid, being a critical player on the boards and as a leader on that team last year. Bailey Bortner was a 3-point shooter on your team last year that provided some of that pace that you tried to establish last season. But you return a lot of experience, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of sophomores and juniors, couple senior, maybe a senior in between, I believe. You bring in Avery Amstuds, who's only a sophomore. Ellie Will, only a sophomore in the boards. You've got Ryan David and Kate David, I believe, on this East Snowball team. Ryan David is one of the best shooters on that team as well. Brendan, when you look at East Snowball, what are some things that stand out about this year's team that maybe we did not see last year?
Well, this year we're basically going to try to figure out how to survive without Ellie. Ellie got hurt, so she might not be able to play till January. So that's a big hurt to us. But we're trying to figure out, how can we play with 5 guards and succeed in such a hard conference? Norwell's in our conference and Belmont, Columbia City. So the big thing we're learning is, having Avery Amstuds, Kate David, Ryan, Addie Deming, and, now we're trying to find that one person to step up. And I think right now it's Shay Ritchie or McKenna Strom. And I think I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing right now, especially with how young they are. I'm very impressed.
And it's a key point to know about Ellie Will because she did get hurt last year during, I believe it was the Belmont game where she sustained that injury during that season, missed some games, and the team didn't look quite the same for a while with her out of the lineup. So obviously the key thing is to be able to survive those first couple months without Ellie Will being on the floor and whatnot. Talk about the IQ of Avery Amstutz. We haven't seen a point guard at East Normal to the level of Avery Amstutz in over a decade, and she's one of the type of players that when she has the confidence and has the ability to find time and space, she makes everyone around her better, it seems.
I can't tell you how hard that girl works. It's insane. When the season ended, it felt like every day she's in the gym. I mean, her dad has her in the gym, she's in the gym, and they're just doing stuff nonstop together. Her IQ is off the charts, and she's somebody that loves the game of basketball. But the most important thing is she understands that to get to a level that she wants to play at, she has to work really hard. I think that her IQ helps a lot of the girls around her. It definitely helps when you have a girl that can get you the ball and has so many people attracted to stopping her. I think watching her play this offseason and seeing how she's grown as an individual, how much her IQ's grown, I think people are going to have a really hard time trying to keep her in front of us and also account for all our shooters that we have on the outside.
Yeah, especially if she can get some confidence, being able to shoot that three ball. Avery Amstutz can do just about everything that your team needs her to be on that floor. Looking at the start of your season, you look at the schedule. You open the season on November 9th. You're hosting Westview on that Saturday around 2:30 p.m. 4 of your first 5 games are at home, so you get some home cooking to begin the season. You got Bishop Dwayne at home. You're hosting Bluffton on the 16th. That will be one of the marquee matchups that I will be discussing this season and around the Northeast corner. So that'll be a key matchup there. Going to Concordia is always a tough place to play. Hosting Northside, and then you got Carroll on the road on November 26th. That's a team that ended your season last year in sectional play after beating them in the regular season. Brennan, you talked about the difficulty of the Northeast State. How does that schedule help prepare you for a brutal conference slate ahead?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that come to mind. Bluffton has a great coach, and they're definitely a very physical team. And this summer we played them, and it was a very up and down game. We also have Concordia, who has really good players. Last year she got hurt in our game, but she was killing us before that. She got hurt. And then the Carroll game, you got Lily George, who is a monster inside. And once again, if we don't have LA Will, it's like, what are we going to do with trying to keep her under control? And then they have Jersey Paul, who shoots it from the outside as well with them. So I think the biggest thing that helps us is we're playing a lot of different talent from the guards early on, then to bigs later on before Thanksgiving with Carroll. So I think it helps with what we're going into conference play. I think it's like Belmont and New Haven to start it off in Columbia City. So we're looking at, Belmont lost a Cole girl, and she was one of the best players I've seen from a girl standpoint. With her IQ, was insane for how skilled she was. So I think this year definitely is, for my second year and the girls' second year under here, we're really improving our way of scouting and preparing for games, especially with our conference and the teams that we play. We've upped our schedule. We also picked up Northridge, so that'll be a good help too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you look at the schedule, there's Wayner with the EK girl there, Bluffton with Alton Schreiber. They're a deep team. Concordia with Olivia Bollinger there, Carroll with Lily George. You have Northridge. They have a great program. I think they went to regionals last year. So they're a very talented Northridge team. You actually opened the season at New Haven on December 7th, then a game at Northrop, and then at Belmont and Columbia City in that order before you have a tournament on December the 28th. Brendan, let's talk about the Northeast State because obviously it's a really tough conference. And I mentioned this with Coach Retz when we talked about the soccer team, that you were able to find success out of conference, but in conference was a little bit of a struggle at times last season, although you did beat Huntington North last season, which was maybe by some people a little bit of a surprise there. But you see the competition, a variety of competition there with Belmont with their physicality, Columbia City with their speed. Norwell always has the depth that they do. Leo with their size. Huntington North always seems to have disciplined guards as well. When you look at the Northeast State, and especially now where you're pairing in sectionals, being in Class 3A now, how does that conference help you to stay to stay prepared and stay on top of your game, especially as you get further along the season and having to be ready for a new sectional?
Well, I think every team in our conference is either a 3A school, or there might be some 4A. I'm trying to think. Maybe Huntington North would
I
be
think
on that
Huntington's the only
board.
4A school.
Yeah. So for us, you're playing teams that you could play in the tournament. So it's really a battle of preparing yourself and to compete in a hard conference, then to turn around in a sectional. I think we have DeKalb's in there, and that's our rival. A lot of times that people say East Noble and DeKalb are rivals. So we see that we might have to play DeKalb at the end of the season and then play them again 2-3 weeks later. And I know like Amstutz, when he's a football coach, always used to tell me that it's always hard to beat somebody twice. So I think that adds a lot to you're playing a lot of 3A schools, and then you're going to a sectional and you're playing that same competition you just played a couple months ago. So teams and coaches are really smart nowadays. It's a year-round sport, so coaches really work on preparing their kids to the best of their ability. And I think now with scouting and huddle and how that helps teams, I think it just always gets harder when the postseason hits.
Brandon, you alluded to about the thing your team wants to be this season. You alluded about some things your team has shown capabilities of, and you have the challenge of LA Will as well. Brandon, I have a two-parter on this question. Number one, what's the one thing fans should expect about the 2024-25 East Noble Knights? And then number two, besides what we've talked about earlier, what's going to be one key area that your team needs to improve for you to have a good start to the season and be able to sustain a successful year?
I think you're going to see a very fast team. And that can come on defense or offense. We've changed some things around to fit what we're going to have to deal with and go with that. I think that really helps our guard play. I think we have really strong guards, especially for our team. And second question was about how we're going to deal with LA Will, right? Or what we need to improve on.
Besides what we talked about earlier, LA Will is part of it, but what's going to be the other thing your team will need to continue to do well?
I think we have to play defense at a high level and rebound. I think being young last year, we kind of got lazy on that side of the ball. And maybe I was demanding too much in the offensive end of them being attacking all the time, but defensively, we have to be a team that people are scared to play, not a team that people are like, oh, they can only guard for 10 seconds and then you're getting an easy layup. So that's stuff that we have to, and that's on me. I have to do a better job of that. And I've really worked hard this offseason of getting the girls ready for that. I think it showed in our offseason program and our summer games as well.
Final question for me, Britton. You went to Lakeland. You're a Lakeland grad. Your father is the baseball coach still at Lakeland High School. You have a lot of family from the East Noble area. You're just now starting to get into that tenureship of being a young coach at East Noble, team on the rise, a lot of talent, a lot of potential. What's it like being a son of a Lakeland and now being a coach yourself at East Noble? What is it like being a part of that East Noble community?
I can't tell you how much I love my job. It's one of the most welcoming programs I've ever been a part of. The families are amazing. Going to different sporting events and see how everybody supports each other. The coaches support each other. It's kind of a cool cycle because my dad and mom went to East Noble. So it's kind of a switch from me going to Lakeland. Now my dad's there coaching and I'm at East Noble coaching. And I think it's something you kind of dream of being a high school basketball coach when I was in high school. And now I get to live it out with a program that has a lot of historical background on both sides of boys and girls. And the people love basketball in Noble County and football as well. And I honestly love that I get to wake up every day and be a basketball coach for East Noble. I think that's something that I can be very grateful for and blessed. And I just, I can't tell you how blessed I am, how thankful I am.
That is wonderful here. Brendan, any final thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you, Sam. I think you don't get enough credit for what you do for around our area for sports. I know sometimes you get some shade from other people that don't understand how hard you work. And I know I've been in your corner a lot when we went to college, and you did some interviews with me in college, and we've kind of known each other from a distance with you going to school at Central Noble. And I just want to tell you that I think you do an outstanding job. I think that people should really be thankful that you're covering these sports and giving them, the girls and the boys, the coverage that they need to maybe get to the next level that they wouldn't get anywhere else.
Thank you very much. That is Brendan Isaacs, the head girls basketball coach of the East Noble Knights, as they get set for the 2024-25 campaign. Brendan, thank you for taking the time to talk about the Lady Knights, and good luck on your season.
Yep. Thanks, Sam.
I'm here with the senior at Columbia City, Grayson Bradberry. You know who Grayson Bradberry is? He's the starting quarterback on the Columbia City football team. He's also the starting pitcher on the baseball team. So, Grayson, how are things going for you?
Personally, right now they're going great. Going into sectionals, I wouldn't say nervous, but we kind of getting those like excitement butterflies. We're finally playing football that leads us to a state championship. So, yeah, we're really excited.
Mm-hmm. You look at this team, and 2 years ago, this team won a sectional championship, and obviously that was a big moment for the program's history and winning the conference championship as well as the sectional. Last year, your team went 5-0, and unfortunately couldn't sustain that success, struggled in the NEA and
Yeah.
whatnot. You look at this season coming in this year. What made about this year that had a possibility for a special year at Columbia City?
I think it really starts with we have a really tight group of seniors. We've been playing football together since, gosh, I don't even know how old we were, maybe like third grade. And it's just, we all kind of have the same goals and the same vision, and I think the same drive. Like, we all want to win no matter what. And I think a lot of the problems in the past with some of the classes is some of them aren't necessarily all in. And I think that's one thing that we have. And if you're looking for something that really needs to motivate you, you have your brothers to your left and right just pushing you to go farther, and you want to do it for them and just end on a really high note.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, that confidence is there for your team. It's a team that's with a lot of experience coming back. This is a team that's averaging 44 points per game. It's one of the highest scoring teams in the history of Columbia City football.
Yeah.
Recently, for you moved yourself into the top 10 all time for quarterbacks in terms of career passing yards at Columbia City. When you look from year one to year two, how much have you seen improvement as a quarterback at Columbia City?
Gosh, for me, it's a ton, but I think the biggest thing is, like, I am really comfortable this year just being the quarterback. I think last year I struggled with a little bit of leadership, a little bit of vocal leadership, and this year I just calmed myself down and said, don't try to do too much. Um, Go do what you're supposed to do, and as long as I'm that, it's helped me just be a better leader and perform better when I'm not putting as much pressure on myself to go be the hero and just letting my players make the plays that they can make.
Mm-hmm. And that is for sure. You do have playmakers on the ground as well as wide receiver. How much does it help to have that support around you, that they have that experience and they know they can make a play on any given point, especially when the ball goes to Stratton Fuller? You know what Stratton Fuller can do when the ball goes
Yeah.
to him.
It's yeah, it makes you confident, especially when we're in a tough situation. Like, let's say like it's a third and long. Like, I can trust my guys. I can trust any one of them to go make a play. And then Stratton, if the ball's in the air, you can almost count on him coming down with it, which is very, as a quarterback, especially last year when I was a junior, my first start was just like every time he caught it, it's just like it makes you comfortable. It makes you confident in what you're going to do, knowing that they're going to perform at a high level.
Mm-hmm. And looking at the Leo game, and that's a very intriguing game to talk about now. You were coming off a loss to East Noble, which the first half East Noble dominated that game against your team, and
Yeah.
the Leo game was seen as like, okay, Columbia City has struggled with Leo in the past, blah 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 blah. You've all have heard all heard the talk about that as well. Take me through those final plays that set up the game winning touchdown, because you had the blocked field goal. Was it a blocked field goal? Everybody was kind of
Yeah.
confused. One of your players picked up the loose ball, knowing the rules about a blocked field goal, took in the end zone, inverted whistle. Was it supposed to be, the play was supposed to be dead and whatnot? You eventually get what is called basically an untimed down. And then on that last play, you threw to Stratton Fuller, who made a tremendous catch. Take me through the sequence and all the emotions that led to that win for your team.
I think that drive really started when our defense held them to a field goal, because I think that was, the offense came out and we were like, we're no longer playing to tie, we're playing to win. And I think when we play to win, we are so much better. and then we kind of started with the ball, and then there was a couple. I think we had a couple runs, and it was just driving down the field, and now once we got ourselves into the position to score, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot there at the start, and then obviously the field goal unit comes on and it gets blocked. So now, uh, the minute it gets blocked, you're thinking, man, we've lost the game. And then you see that they're not getting on the ball. And Ethan McIntosh, credit to him, credit to our coaches for knowing the rules and going over that with us and going into the end zone. Because I think without him picking the ball up and going in the end zone, we don't get that untimed down at all. And then when we walked out there the second time, we were like, well, we're not going to go for the tie. Let's go for the win. It was honestly is like it was Stratton versus Landon Hepner 1-on-1, and I was like, just I trust Stratton so much 1-on-1 just to go get the ball. He is. If there's anybody that will go get the ball in crunch time, it's him. And you just when you have that kind of trust, it makes it so much easier to go make a play.
Yeah. I mean, I just talked to Stratton earlier this year about what's the most memorable play that he's ever had at Columbia City, and told the blocked field goal, right, back a couple years
Yeah,
ago, the three-quarter shot
definitely.
in basketball that got him to Sports
Mhm.
Center. Now you got this play. I can't
Yeah,
imagine what's going through the mind right now for Stratton Fuller.
definitely.
I mean, especially now you're gonna have him and Lanny Hepper going to Army next year. That's just another memory that they're gonna be talking about for years and years to come. Grayson, when you look at this Columbia City football team, we talked about the offense. We know the talent is there with
Mhm.
this team. You talked about the brotherhood of this team. What are some other attributes about this team that most people don't talk about with this team?
I think we don't get enough credit for how physical we are. Um, Obviously the offense we run, we are a run first offense. Everybody knows that, but just our line up front is so good. I mean, I've seen holes that quite literally cars can drive through, and whenever you see that, it makes you, especially as a quarterback, seeing that it's like when you're back in the pocket, you see that so well, and you feel so comfortable. And just, I don't think our offensive line gets enough credit. They drive us down the field. They protect me. I mean, I think we've only given up 1 or 2 sacks in any 8 play, and that is just in previous years that's unheard of. And that's just props to them for going to work every day and just, I mean, they're amazing. I couldn't ask for a better offensive line.
Talk about the everyday experience being around these guys in practice, in game day. What is it like being around these guys?
We're a very fun group. Like you get into the locker room and we're playing music that most people like dance to because we know when to be serious, we know when to have fun, and we play that line very well. And I think that's really good for us because especially with this team, when we are loose and we are having fun and just remembering football is a game. At the end of the day, football is not life or death. It is a game. So when we treat it as a game, we are so much better. I think when we went to East Noble, right? I think we got into the mindset of let's go and be this team that just is like strictly business, and we didn't necessarily like we were laughing and smiling on the way there. We had all these like serious looks, and then when we go to our other away games, right, we're laughing, we're smiling, we're having fun because we get to play a game that we enjoy. And I think when we stick to that, we are. I mean, we're one of the best teams in the state, I believe.
Yeah, and then this sectional is gonna reward you if you're able to win this sectional
Yeah.
for a 19 because it's a really tough sectional. You drew Bishop Dwayne in the first round. Everybody looks
Mhm.
at 4 and 5 records and say, man, Dwayner's not all that great. But you guys know this. I mean, you played hard competition no matter the
Yes.
sport. Bishop Dwayne has a really good football team. They're a perennial contender and they play in the SAC, and the SAC
Mhm.
is no joke when it comes to that. I don't know if you've seen much about Bishop Dwayne on film and whatnot, but what's the initial thoughts going into that matchup against Bishop Dwayne and going into Shields Field?
I think we are really excited to play somebody who we don't normally play, right? Us senior groups, we've never played Dwanger. They've never played us. I think that's one thing that we're really excited, especially East Noble and Leo. They've seen us before, and everybody knows it's really hard to beat a team twice. We still think we can. We believe in ourselves, but it is very, very nice knowing that Bishop Dwenger hasn't seen our offense. They haven't played an offense like ours. They've played spread teams, but we also got to give credit to them. They're a very physical team. They are, again, they're a powerhouse typically in 4A, and we can't overlook them. We got to take it day by day, but we're really excited for a great game. And honestly, the atmosphere that we know is going to be around there. We know there's going to be a lot of people, probably from 6A and 5A schools there, and it's just going to be a packed house. And it's going to be a great environment, especially late in the season in sectionals. It's no better environment to be in probably than Bishop Dwenger next Friday night.
That is for sure. Grayson, you talked about things that help your team be successful, and that's being able to stay loose and be able to believe in each other and whatnot. For your team to have an opportunity to fulfill those goals in the state tournament, what are things you're going to need to continue to do well in the state tournament?
We're gonna need to run. We're gonna need to continue to run the ball well. That's our game. Is we're gonna beat you with the run first, and then that's gonna open up the pass game. Um, but we've got to stay physical, and we've got to respond to adversity. I was really proud of our team when we came back that second half against East Noble when we outscored them 14-0. And that was their varsity defense for the most part that was playing against us. And I was really proud of that because a couple years ago that was unseen from Columbia City to be able to respond like that. And even last year, we had one game and then it just snowballed. So just to see us respond in that second half and then respond in the Leo game, just it gives me a ton of faith. But we got to continue to do. Especially against Dwenger, they're going to have some plays. We're going to have some plays. It's going to be a back and forth game. We can't get too high, can't get too low. We just got to go out and execute on all three phases of the game.
This is Grayson Bradberry, the senior at Columbia City. Final question for me, and this is a non-football question because you're also a baseball pitcher at
Yes.
Columbia City. Your team had a really good season last year, almost winning the Northeast State, which Columbia City has not won a conference championship in baseball since 1972. So it's been a while, and I know your team's going to be working on that when we get to the spring season and whatnot. Talk about the decision to choose Butler University and that program and why that was the right fit for you.
Yeah, so I had a couple offers from a couple places. I visited a couple schools, and then I went to Butler, and I really liked Beamer and Lerner. I really loved the coaches there. They just, I don't know, when there's just this feeling that you're comfortable around them. You can feel like every day you can go to battle with them. And then I toured the campus and everything, toured the facilities. I loved it. It is obviously Butler's a prestigious school. Education is very important to me and my family. My mom has always kind of instilled that in me that education comes first. You're a student before you're an athlete. So when we met with an academic, somebody in the business department, they kind of talked about how they run their accounting. That's what I'm planning on majoring in is accounting. So how they teach accounting and what their kind of game plan is. And I realized that the way they do it is how I learn best. I learned with very hands-on stuff. So when they said that, I came out of the Lacey School of Business building, and I remember, like, in my mind, I was like, this is where I'm going to be. I loved it there. It's close to home. My parents can come see me. I'm a big family guy, so I like being around my parents. Obviously, in college, I won't be able to do it as much, but I like for them to be able to come down and see a few games. And then the environment there, the location, the baseball team, I really see Beamer's vision, and I really see him going forward in a couple of years. So I'm very excited, to say the least.
That is for sure. We are looking forward to see what you can do on the baseball diamond this spring in your final year at Columbia City. Grayson, final thoughts before we let you go.
None really. Go Eagles and go Bulldogs.
All right, this is Grayson Bradberry of Columbia City as he and his team get ready for sectionals this Friday when they go to Bishop Dwenger. That will be the ANEC game of the week, by the way. So we will talk about this game later this week. Grayson, good luck for you and
Thank
on
you.
the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Joining me is Hunter Sosenheimer from SummitCitySports.com. And Hunter, we got ourselves a busy time right now in high school sports. We have fall postseason sports upon us, soccer semi-states, volleyball regionals, and now football sectionals. Hunter, how are things going for you lately?
Good. Super excited to get basketball season underway, but got to finish up another exciting year of high school football and sectionals.
We'll talk about basketball later on, but I want to first talk about the football sectional pairings. And Hunter, when you go into the football state tournament, what are some initial headlines you have coming in?
I just like to see the matchups. Like some of the there's a lot of matchups this year that are very, very intriguing. So that is something I'm really looking forward to here around the area. It should be a fun postseason in football.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that stands out when we talk about those matchups that you keep alluding to, Class 2A, Adams Central moves up to 2A. They've never won a 2A sectional, but obviously they're seen as one of the favorites to get to Lucas Oil Stadium, I believe, for the fourth consecutive year. They've done it for the last 3 years, despite this year's team being relatively different from the past 3 years. You got India Lutheran moving up to 2A after winning 3 straight state championships and whatnot. When you look at the 2A state tournament, Adams Central is a heavy favorite to win their sectional, although Bluffton is their first round matchup, and Bluffton would be seen as the more of the bigger threat in that sectional. Do you see Adams Central going back to state finals?
Yeah, I could 100% see that. Both them and Indy Lutheran, both were tremendous programs in 1A. I could see them both making their way back to a state championship in 2A as well.
And when you look at the only thing that worries me about Adams Central in Class 2A is obviously this is a different team from last year, but I mean, it's still a very talented team. There's still a lot of players back, but it is a different team. So you always have to wonder how that's going to translate in the playoffs. I've always said this too, like when they have struggled, even this year they've had some issues. It's been against quarterbacks and teams with lethal passing offenses. If there's one team that could make things interesting in the 2A North, Lafayette Central Catholic would certainly be a team to keep an eye on. They are 8-0 going into the state tournament, and they average around 37 points per game. They do have an offense that historically is really good throwing the football and whatnot. When you look at the sectional pairings, Hunter, like what's the one matchup that really stands out to you so far?
I mean, looking at it, if are you talking like all classes in general?
Just in general, yes.
In general, I really like the 4A matchups, the Columbia City and Bishop Dwenger game. I think that is the most intriguing matchup from 1A to 4A. I think that one's going to be a tremendous one out at Bishop Dwenger on Friday night. And then even in that sectional 2 as well, you get DeKalb and Leo, who both just played each other on Friday, and then now we'll play each other again next Friday. That should be an intriguing matchup. Southside, East Noble, Southside turning their corner at the right time. Like I've called multiple of their games this year, and they're facing a very, very, very tough East Noble squad. I think that East Noble squad is absolutely dangerous. They can make a lot of noise in the postseason.
And they got playmakers too on offense and defense. Logan Hannon, obviously the man with many hats when it comes to his performance on defense and whatnot. By the way, this is not the first time that Southside and East have played each other. This is the first time since 1990 that these two teams have met in football, in which Southside did win that first matchup. So curious to see how Southside and East will match up. Southside's athleticism does see it to be a little bit of a different matchup from what Easton was seeing in the past. But I think Southside's going to have a lot of question marks on being able to move the football against this really good East Noble linebacking core. I actually just talked to Grayson Bradberry before we recorded this interview here, and he talked about how excited they are about playing Bishop Dwenger, and have not having to play a team like Bishop Dwenger before is something that's unique and different, so to speak. And I think they're looking forward to that matchup. When you look at that sectional even as a whole, you got Wayne and New Haven in that sectional as well. Do you see New Haven hanging around in that matchup with Wayne? I know they've had their struggles this year, but New Haven does have the athletes that they are capable of making a ball game in the sectional.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they have the athletes, like you said, but Wayne, they're just a scary, scary team. And with their head coach, Sherwood Haydock, and all of his experience in the postseason, he's a tremendous coach. I know he's going to have his kids ready on Friday night, and I feel like Wayne could come away with a big win there.
Do you see Bishop Lures making a deep run this year? They've had injuries this year, and it seems like that's starting to catch up to them a little bit lately, especially with the loss to the South Side. They are a little bit on a losing skid going into the state tournament. Do you think that maybe this is just not their year?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Lindsay, obviously, he has a lot of postseason experience, but with those injuries and things like that, that kind of just takes the percentage for them kind of down a little bit. But I do think they could play a little bit in their sectional, but I don't see them going much further after that.
Yeah, I think the only thing is you got Heritage in sectionals, and they do have an offense that can expose Bishop Lures a little bit, especially if Lures still has the injury kind of wearing their defense a little bit. Heritage is a team that can exploit them just a little bit there. I want to look at sectional 26 real quick, because I think we looked at 3A in terms of our area. 3A sectional 26 is very fascinating. You got basically the entire mid-school division, the NECC, with Garrett, West Noble, Angola, Fairfield. Fairfield's starting to play better football lately, by the way. Garrett with their first undefeated regular season since 1974, which is their 50th anniversary of the state championship team. You got West Snowball being a team that's maybe a little overlooked a little bit, but still really good football team. Woodland having their best season since they went to state in 2017. They're going to be playing Tippy Valley for the first time since they went to state in 1981, going to Death Valley, and that's a really tough place to play over in Tippy Valley and whatnot. Lakeland's another team that's interesting too, but I do worry about the injuries of Lakeland, especially not having Levi Cook right now is a big concern for the linebacker core. Jimtown just threw for 195 yards passing on just 11 throws. Jimtown's not known for throwing the football, by the way. So that's a big concern with their matchup against Garrett. You look in that sectional, like, is this Garrett versus everybody else in that sectional, or do you think a team like West Snowball or Tippy Valley can make things interesting?
Yeah, I mean, Garrett has had a tremendous year here so far. Chris Depew is putting his team on the map here once again in 9-0 perfect season or 8-0 perfect season. They had a tremendous year there, so I think it's them versus everybody in that section.
That's very interesting. I think Garrett certainly can win this sectional for sure. They got a really good senior class. They got some underclassmen that can play really well as well. Very physical front line, probably the most physical team in the entire area under Chris Depew. They got some playmakers there with Wells up front, Aiden Hunt up front. They got Levi Cheney at linebacker. They got a lot of big boys that can play big boy football. And then Calder Hefty's one of the most electric quarterbacks in this area. Whatnot. If Garrett can play their football effectively and limit the turnovers, that was the one issue I had with Garrett last year, was the turnovers. That's something they've done a really good job this year. Garrett can certainly make honest truth, Hunter. Like 3A is pretty wide open this year. Like Garrett could make a run to the state finals in 3A. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I do want to mention this. Like West Snowball might be the one team that could give Garrett some trouble. Remember, in week 6, West Snowball actually had a chance to go 14-0 both times against Garrett, only settle for field goals. Garrett gets that kickoff return after that, and everything else changed from there. So it's certainly not out of the possibility of an upset, but I do agree Garrett's probably going to be the favorites in that sectional. Looking at Class 5A, and I believe we're going to sectional 11, Goshen, Warsaw, Concord versus Northside. And other than Goshen, everybody else is pretty even on paper. On paper, Hunter, you look in that section on Northside, dealing with a lot right now off the field, but they do have the talent to compete in the state tournament. Concord, though, is really good. They got a really good quarterback. They got a really good offensive scheme. They just won the Northern Lights Conference. Does Northside give Concord some fits this year?
Yeah, we were actually looking at the I was actually personally, before this, jumping on the show here today, was looking at like the schedules of that sectional specifically. And I mean, Concord and Northside both have that one matchup from the beginning of the year versus they both have played Northridge on the season, and they were both really, really close games. So, I mean, I could see Northside coming away with this one. I mean, it would be a very, very tough game, but I could see Northside coming away with this one. Also, thoughts and prayers out to the Northside community.
Mm-hmm. That is for sure. It's definitely a tough time. But thankfully, though, at least from the emotional standpoint, they will have a week off, so they have time to reflect and mourn over that very tragic situation and whatnot. I think the big thing for Northside on paper is going to have to be able to convert in the red zone. I think that's going to be one thing Concord's going to test them, and especially if Northside's still coming in banged up, at least from an injury standpoint, that could be a concern against a very physical Concord team. Whatnot. But I agree. I think that matchup could possibly be the matchup that decides the sectional altogether, although you can't rule out Bart Ball by any means with Warsaw and whatnot. You look at 6A, Homestead's got a tough draw of them playing Hamilton Southeastern. That's going to be brutal. So I don't know how well Homestead's going to fare in that one. But you look at section number 2, Gunner. Snyder, state champions from Class 5A. They get a really tough draw against Elkhart, one of the top defenses in all of Indiana, regardless of class. Elkhart's a team that also just beat Penn a couple weeks ago. So they have a lot of talent on that team. And I talked to the folks at Indiana Preps, and I said, if there's one team that can beat Snyder early in the postseason, Elkhart could be the team that does it. And that's how good they are. But you got Carroll and Northup. I think Carroll likely plays for the championship. But what do you think about that matchup with Elkhart and Snyder, considering how much different Snyder looks this year compared to last year?
Yeah, I think that one is going to be an exciting game once we get to that sectional game 2 weeks from now. Snyder and Elkhart, I was looking at the schedule there, and I saw Elkhart has beaten Penn on the season. Snyder has just completely dominated their schedule. Besides the Carroll matchup, which I think if those two meet once again, that game will take place at Carroll, and I think that will be an outstanding game. But like you said, Snyder has to get through Elkhart first. What are they, 8-7-1 on the season? I believe is their
8-1.
record. 8-1, 8-1. Yeah, so they've had a tremendous year here so far. But Coach Pittman always seems to have his kids ready once the postseason rolls around.
Yeah, the one thing about Elkhart, though, is this is going to be very reminiscent to the first week of the season because of their defense. And okay, it's not at the level of Warren Central, like it's not nationally ranked good, like Warren Central is, but Elkhart has only given up 7 points per game, led by their first-year head coach, Trevon Curry. So you know that they got guys that can get stops, and Snyder in the past, this year at times, has struggled to move the football. They're going to have to be able to move the ball against this Elkhart team if they want to extend their season. But I am fascinated to see how that matchup goes. I think we're going to get a lot of really interesting matchups to see who can go far in the state tournament. Let's transition to girls basketball because the first day of practices begin tomorrow, and I know for us in the Fort Wayne area, we were very excited about what girls basketball could look like for this area. We know Norwell went to the state finals last year in Class 3A. They fell short at the hands of Gibson Southern by just 3 points, and then Bishop Luers won a state championship against Brownstown Central. Luers moves up to 3A, but it's essentially a retool season under a first-year head coach because Coach Pitsley retired and whatnot. Hunter, when you look at girls basketball in the Chusitso, who are some players coming back or teams that stand out to you?
I think Snyder is another team that Snyder's a team that stands out to me. They graduate Nene Donahue and Jordan Poole, but they bring in a freshman in Cooper who has Division I offers even before stepping on the court to play in her freshman year. It was kind of like a Jordan Poole type player I could see. So I'm excited to see them. You get Miley Waring, who transfers to Northrop. Northrop does lose quite a bit of pieces there as well. Norwell, they lose quite a bit with Mackenzie Feast graduating their graduation class. So I think there's a lot. There's going to be a lot of good talent to see around the Northeast Indiana area, and I'm super excited to see how it goes around here.
Yeah, this is, I believe, Janiyah Cooper, I believe it is. That's the freshman for the Snyder Panthers. She just recently picked up an offer from a match school in Bowling Green. And so she's getting a lot of Division I offers before she even sets on the floor of the varsity stage. So it's very impressive to see that already from Snyder. And we know that Snyder has proven to be a tremendous contender in the SAC. Let's not forget about Homestead. They return a lot from a team that came 2 wins shy of a state finals appearance. And Gabby Helson and Maya Epps and Whitney Ankenbrook. I think they got a couple freshmen on that team that are very strong as well, at least for the future of that Homestead team. They're very talented as well. So I think the SAC could be a lot of fun this year. Carroll returns a lot as well. It's just a matter of Carroll's, can they put it all together? I think they're an interesting team to watch as well. Look at the Northeast 800. Columbia City graduated quite a bit, although they bring back Addie Baxter this year. Norwell graduated a lot, although they bring back Vanessa Rossworm. We know Norwell's got talent. We know their feeder system got a lot of good players from within. So we expect Norwell to compete, but you got East Noble returning a lot, like Avery and Stunts and whatnot, although Ellie will not be playing for East Noble until January. That's going to be brutal. DeKalb brings back Ashley Cott, so that could be an interesting team as well. You look at the Northeast State, Hunter, is this still Norwell, Columbia City, or do you see somebody else catching them?
Brayton Isaacs and East Noble, they made a run. They got quite a bit to the top there last year. So I could see them being a shocking factor in the Northeast State. But yeah, Columbia City, Norwell, those two I could see battling it out for that top spot.
Yeah, and it could be interesting to see, like with Columbia City now in 3A, maybe they could be a team that, if they can get hot at the right time, maybe they could be a team that can win a sectional championship, which they haven't done so since 2000. So that could be huge for Columbia City from that aspect. Look at the Northeast Corner Conference. They had a bit of a down year by their standards, but they do bring back a lot. You look at Angola, they kind of bring back players, but they also add players. They got a really good freshman class that went undefeated last year in middle school. You have Central Noble that returns a lot, led by Abby Pleat and Grace Swank. Eastside returns a lot, led by Paige Tratzler. Fairfield returns a lot, and they also have Michaela Mast, who transferred mid-season last year from Westview. Fairfield's another team to keep an eye on. Fremont won a sectional last year, led by Grace Charlotte, who just picked up from Huntington University, and Addie Parr. By the way, congratulations to Fremont Volleyball on winning a sectional championship. West Noble starting to get some underclassmen as well. Look at the NECC. Who would be seen as the favorite in that conference for you?
Yeah, I could see Eastside and Angola. Eastside returning a lot of pieces. I called a few of their games last year, and their freshman classes, their underclassmen, so their freshmen and sophomores were just absolutely phenomenal. So I could see them making a run there in that conference in Angola too as well.
Yeah, I will say this: Central Noble, if they can put consistency together, Grace Swain's one of the best centers in the conference. Abby Fleet can shoot the basketball as well, and they gave Eastside some trouble last year, and obviously they beat Eastside in the sectional. So obviously Central Noble can be a competitive team as well. I'm curious to see though with Angola, how do the freshmen led by Ellis Savage, and you have the Pocock girl on that team. You got Bailey Holman's sister on that freshman class. Obviously, you have Bailey Holman back, and you have Lexi Stillman back as well. So I think Angola is going to be a very interesting team to keep an eye on the NACC. ACAC. Now, last year, Jay County has dominated this conference over the years. They bring back Hallie Schwederman, but you also got this Bluffton team coming back. They bring back all this talent led by Conley All and Isabel Stout and Marin Schreiber. Is this still Jay County Bluffton again?
Yeah, I can see that 100%. Both those two squads are absolutely phenomenal. They continue to make runs there. Woodland loses quite a bit, so that I could see those two topping out that.
Mm-hmm. Final question from me, Hunter. What are you most looking forward to as you get ready for the football season? What game are you going to be calling this week?
So this week I have the rematch. So the Leo at DeKalb. So it should be a very, very phenomenal game. I know Leo laid it down on them in the last week of the regular season, but both those squads getting a look at one another. You wonder how much stuff did Coach Dorfler put out on his end of things, and on the other side, you wonder how much did Coach Wilcox put out there for DeKalb. So I mean, it could be a different type of matchup, but these two squads are going to be studying their film, which I'm sure they already have over the weekend, and should be super exciting to call that matchup there.
Yeah, and Leo's Nathan Foster just coming up a 1,000-yard rushing milestone in their loss to Columbia City, which I just talked to Grayson about that last play before the untimed down, and then winning that game a couple weeks ago, and just how crazy the finish was in that game between Leo and Columbia City. I'm sure Leo's motivated to have a good run in the postseason. We could see another Leo East Noble rematch in a week from now if these two teams are able to advance. We could get Leo East to decide who plays for the sectional title. Columbia City, Bishop Wayne, another interesting matchup as well. So I think that I'm curious to see how things play out in 4A sectional 19. Hunter, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, thanks for having me on, Sam. I appreciate it.
All right, that is Hunter Sosenheimer from Summit City Sports, and keep an eye on the Summit City Sports' social media page as they get you update on games they're going to be covering this week, especially with the football sectionals and the state tournament, especially with them being exclusively on IHSAA TV. So check out their social media platform, Summit City Sports, and Hunter Sosenheimer as they get ready for a new week of high school football and the state tournament underway. Thank you, Hunter, for taking the time to talk some sports.
Yep, thanks for having me, Sam.
I'm here with the head boys soccer coach of the Angola Hornets, Ryan Stellhorn. Ryan, thank you for coming on the show, and how are things going for you?
They're going well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and just be able to talk about our season. And so thank you for the invite. And, we just wrapped up our season on last Thursday. So just looking forward to, celebrating with them at our awards banquet and just celebrating what we did this year.
Mm-hmm. Before we talk about this season, you was hired pretty late in the off season for the Angola program and whatnot. But talk about how your team was able to get things moving in that transition and still have the successful season that your team had.
We were able to do some open fields in the summer, and we had great turnouts. The kids bought in right away. I was able to kind of get a schedule out to them, and they came out hungry and ready to work. We had a bit of a veteran, actually a good mix. We had a big team this year. We had, but a good veteran leadership group there with our juniors and seniors. And when people weren't coming, it's all optional, but they would lead and they would get them out there just to play, and they wanted to have a good season. They wanted to get better. And so they really worked hard at getting everybody on board. And so I got to give them credit because they got them out there, got them excited about the season.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned it's a veteran team. It's also a team with some depth as well. It's kind of a next man up mentality with the Angola program. You looked at Cameron Stewart, who led your team in goals. I mean, he by a pretty good margin. He was one of the most talented players to ever come out of Angola High School. You have Matthew Bracey, your goalkeeper, who pretty much was the rock of your defense at Angola. And then you have Trey Soulier on that Angola team. I can go on and on about this team, but talk about what made this team special for you and for this program.
Just their mentality. I'm a local, and so I've watched them for years. And once you're a soccer coach, it's just in your blood. And so even when I wasn't coaching over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, I would just still be around the game, and I just watched the team, and I always enjoyed watching them. But I didn't think they always played to their strengths, and I was excited to be able to coach them. And with such a big group of veterans, though, sometimes you worry about them buying in. Are they going to be willing to change a style of play? And they were from day one. They bought in, and we had some early success beating Westview, and that hadn't happened in a while. And that I think really opened their eyes to the potential that they had as a team. Because early I kept saying, I don't think you guys realize how good of a team you can be. And I think they knew they could be pretty good, but I don't think they realized how good they could be. And that was one of the first stepping stones, I think, where people started to really believe. And we just kept it rolling from there, and we had 3 losses on the season until regionals, and 2 of those were close games to West Noble, where we believed that we could beat them. Nothing against them. They're a great team. But each of those games we were right in it, and we knew it was a great matchup. We knew there two really good teams going head to head, and we thought if we could just get over that hump and get a win there, and we finally did in sectionals. And I was just proud of our kids the way they did that. But you're right. We have, like you said, you can name the names, and we had people that did not, that the ego wasn't a concern. We had a kid that had always played offense, started at us, Danny Cook. He was always a forward or a winger, and he played right back for us all season. And he did a great job, one of the best right backs around. And he's just, an athlete. And I'm like, you can help us right here. And it's you don't get all the goals, and you don't get maybe some of the recognition that others do, but he did his job, and he was a core part of the defense, and it can go straight across, the defense. I don't want to leave people out, but that was an example there. But we have that at every position. Every layer of the field is people just willing to try things. Elijah Antos, he's also a goalkeeper, but he's also a really good defender. And there was times where we had some injuries to deal with. I'm like, hey, I need you to play some defense, and he did. He never complained about it. He did it, and he did it really well. And then we had, just a bunch of rocks in the midfield. And sometimes you're like, wait, I have to leave someone out, because we have that depth, and they're not in the starters, but you're going to play starters minutes. So you're going to get rotated in and give people breaks. And so that depth was amazing. There was a lot of people that would be starting for most teams that were coming off the bench. And, as the season goes on, when you have, people get banged up, that comes in huge, and they get their moments. And it was a next man up mentality. You get your moment, and they went out there, and they all knew that something was building, and they wanted to be a part of that big year.
Mm-hmm. So for my records, the last time Angola had a chance to win a conference championship was 2020. That was the last time they beat Westview in the regular season. 119, very close to win that conference tournament, as you mentioned earlier. You go into sectionals, and obviously you had West Noble in that sectional. You drew Garrett in the first round. You had to play Bishop Dwayner in the next round. We know how tough Bishop Dwayner is in the past and whatnot. So you obviously you had a tough draw coming in. Last sectional championship came in 2009, which ironically, I believe you was the coach at that time in 2009 as well. What made it happen? You talked about the belief, the next man mentality. Why was your team able to get it done that week?
Yeah, no, I was looking back too, and you mentioned 2020 was the last time that they competed for it, and it was the last time we actually had a winning record since as far back as 2013 that I could find the stats. So they started to sense that they just started believing in themselves, like, hey, we're actually really good, and even on the rough days, they saw the talent, and we just had a plan, and we came into the year. One of the few goals we set was just better. It was a simple motto of get better every day, be intentional about getting better at something, and we talked about how sometimes that even might look like a step backwards, right? Where we messed something up, or we didn't exactly play well or practice well, but through that you learn. And that's a part of the process of getting better. It isn't always linear and straight ahead. Sometimes it looks like a step back, but you take a step back to get better. And we just kept doing that. And we had a moment in the season. We went to Northside, and we were missing a couple key starters. And Northside's a tough team, and we beat them. It was 4-2, and we could have put in a few more that hit the post or just didn't finish. They made a great save, and we really played really well in that game. And that was a moment where I think everybody kind of looked at each other like, if we play well, there's not many teams that can beat us. And from that moment, even though there was a confidence level, our confidence was just growing. And honestly, one of my friends asked me, he had gone to the championship game against West Noble, and they said, when did you know that you had the game? And I said, Wednesday. Because once we beat Dwenger, I'm like, they're not stopping us. Like, they're a great team, but our confidence, our kids are just riding so high, and they're so confident right now and so skilled and so tough. And we stuck around, and some of us, we watched that Leo and Bishop Dwenger game, and two great teams. And, but we felt good coming out of that, just watching. We thought we matched up well with Dwenger. We had a plan. They have some real talent, and we had a plan, and the kids executed it great. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's just, and you have senior leadership. You talked about Cam Sturry earlier. He was just like, at any point, like anytime we needed a big play, he was there. And anytime we needed, a goal, he was, whether creating for himself or creating for someone else. Same thing with Trey out wide. And they gave us different looks in the attack, but they're both just so dangerous going forward. And then we had, we had size, skill, speed in the midfield. You have a Weston Gray who covers so much ground. And it's like having an extra midfielder out there. Because he's just everywhere, and he can. It really gave the rest of the team, having him back there at a defensive midfield position, gave everybody else like Cameron and Trey and Max and everybody just confidence to go forward, because the defense was taken care of between our goalkeeper, our back line, and then just our midfielders, so we didn't get pinned back.
Mm-hmm. And we obviously had the regional matchup just less than a week ago. You took on Concordia in that regional. That's a team that also had a really good season of their own, and they're still playing right now as they're one of the Final Four main teams in Class 2A. You were up 2-0 to start that match. Concordia came back in the second half. They won by a single goal and whatnot. When you look back at that match, how that game ended, what did you tell your team after that game?
There was a long silence, because when you're having a season like we have, you just don't want it to end. You want to keep going. You're enjoying each other. You're enjoying the team, and that that's the last time that this team is together. The seniors are they were big, and we talked at the beginning of the year. Seniors, you're helping build the foundations of a program. Your people came before you, and you're building off of what they've done, and people are going to come after you, and you're trying to build to leave it in a better place. And they really did that. They took hold of that, and they made it a great year. And so I addressed them first, and we talked about that. And I just thanked them for all that they put in. And I went back, and I reminded them, it was, as far as I can tell, and I was a freshman in high school. The first year Angola had a team, and then I coached for 4 years before. And so I've been around, but as far as I can tell, we set records for the most wins in a season, the most goals scored, the fewest goals allowed. We had key wins of teams we hadn't beaten in a while, like West Noble, Westview, Bishop Dwenger, DeKalb, big wins like that. And I told them to remember that, but also, we talked about all year there were bigger lessons than just soccer. And so sometimes in life you do things right. I don't think we necessarily made mistakes in that game. We just didn't come out on top. And sometimes you can do everything right for a season. You can build, and it's just not good enough on a given day. Sometimes life knocks you down, but when that whistle blew, they were there to pick each other up, and they were there to hug each other and to just pat each other on the back and congratulate. And that was emotional to see, because it was these young men really growing up and really embracing that family. During a season, you spend a lot of time together, and when it's hard to know what to say exactly in that moment, but I tried to just remind them of all that, that the lessons they learned, the character that they showed, and just the fight they put in, and the successful season they had.
Final question for me, Coach. Obviously, we were in this period of
Oh. Can you say that again? You cut out a little bit there.
Are we on? Okay.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me repeat this question again. So we're in this period of reflection and whatnot. When you look back at this season, what are the memories you're going to remember the most about this season?
I think the first big one is probably the biggest one, is just the look in their eyes when they beat Westview early in the season, and the way they ran over. It's just to give hugs, and it was the first time I thought they believe in what they're doing. And that was big for me, because I knew then we were going to have a special year. And so that was a big moment for me. I think from that point forward, everything else, I think that set the course for the rest of the season. So I think that's one of the big things. But again, it's watching these guys continue to grow up, to become men. And I'm excited. There's a lot of talent left. I've talked a lot about the seniors, and they're leaving it in a good place. And they're going to be missed because of everything they did, everything they put in over 4 years. But they're leaving it in a good place, and they have people, that are younger, that are ready to step up, and hungry to step up, because they didn't get as many opportunities, because these seniors, took up a lot of the minutes. And so that's an exciting part of where this program can go, and what it can do, just moving forward.
Good way to take a bow on this season as a whole. Coach, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I mean, I'm grateful. It's, I've coached a lot of soccer, and it's one of my most memorable years, and I loved every minute of it. It was a great time, great group of kids. We had great coaches. I had 3 assistants that deserve a lot of credit, because they were there day in, day out. And they did an awesome job. Just relating to the kids and reinforcing and bringing ideas to the table, or not being afraid to step up and say, "Hey, I'm not sure this is working. What about this?" And we really operated as a team. And so, in the coming months, when some downtime, I'm going to miss some of that. But it was a great season, and I loved every minute of it. So.
Right. Well, Coach, thank you for taking time to talk about your Angola Horns. Congratulations on a historic season, and good luck with your off season.
All right. Thank you very much.
I'm here with the head girls volleyball coach of the Norwell Knights, Kayla Hunter. How are we doing here, Kayla?
Great. How are you?
Good. So your team went 20-13 this past season. We'll talk about how the season ended, but to start off with, let's talk about this season. This was your 6th season on this program. This team has kind of been moving the way up the last couple years and whatnot, especially a lot of returnees from last season's team that I believe went all the way to the sectional finals last season as well. Coach, talk about why this team maybe had a chance of doing something special this season.
Yeah, I think over the course of the 6 years that I've been here, we've just been working on getting our girls to believe that they can start to win. When I got here, there just hadn't been a lot of consistency, and they were just kind of used to losing. And so we've had a lot of girls that have just kind of bought in and been really committed. And a lot of that is in our junior class, which is really big. And they have kind of had success as they've gone through. And so a lot of it is just them starting to believe that they can win.
Yeah, that is for sure. You look at this team as a whole. We talked about Vanessa Rostrom a lot on the basketball court and whatnot, but there's also Vanessa Rostrom on the volleyball court, who's just as important on your team as well. Talk about what the value and importance of Vanessa Rostrom as a player and how much she's meant to your team.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, Vanessa's just such a hard worker, no matter what sport she's in, what court she's on, and I think she just brings so much just commitment and dedication and work ethic to the team, and she holds everybody to a high standard, which is exactly what you want. And she just always wants to get better, always wants to get extra reps, and that just naturally rubs off on teammates and makes us all better.
You have other players on this team that are just as valuable as well. Obviously, Emma Vachon was a very important player on your team to start when Macy Salfrank missed the first month of the season and whatnot. You had Izzy Anderson and Mackenzie Bett in the middle. They provided some much needed help in the front row and whatnot. And I mean, it was a well-rounded team, a lot of experience on this team as well. Talk about what these players have meant to the team this season.
Yeah. I mean, all the girls you mentioned, and you could just go down the entire roster. They all have just played such crucial roles. And yeah, just really each kind of took what their spot was. Emma, we were so proud of the way that she jumped into that 5-1 role while Macy was out, and really could have kept doing it all year. She did a great job. But then she really gracefully said, yeah, like if it's best for the team, I'll take a little step down. And she still worked just as hard. In the middle, Izzy and Mackenzie both did a great job. JC on the outside as well. And then Macy, of course, just adds so much in so many different areas. Autumn did a great job at libero. And we just have so many players that they weren't necessarily experienced in their roles. They were some of them used to playing at the varsity level, but had to carry a little bit more this year. And they all just did such a great job and really, rose to the challenge.
Mm-hmm. And talking about this program as a whole, this program has shown a lot of growth over the years and whatnot. Talk about the community reach and support with your program at Norwell. This is a school with a lot of history of success in athletics and basketball, cross country, baseball with all their state championships and football and whatnot. But we've seen a lot of growth with volleyball in Wells County and whatnot. Talk about the community support with this program.
Oh yeah, it's so cool. Even when we weren't doing as well, still to see different people that would come to games or pay attention to games, or hey, like you guys look like you're improving a little bit. That was always great, and the parent support is phenomenal. I am always floored at how much our parents do for the girls and how well they support them. And it's been especially cool over the past couple years as we have gone to the sectional championship. Obviously, not quite getting past it yet, but even just the support of people coming to those games, and then afterwards, just kind of the encouragement that they give both to the coaching staff and to the girls has been really awesome.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about that sectional. This was a good run for your program. You went 20-13 on the season, swept New Haven to get to the sectional finals. You faced Heritage in the finals, a team that you beat last year, but were swept this season to the Heritage Patriots. You were down 0-2, came back to force set 5. You were up 10-6 in set 5. Heritage, as good of a team as they've always are, came back to win that set 15-12. Just the slimmest of margins of a sectional championship for your program. Coach, talk about the resilience coming back from being down 0-2 in a big spot and be able to come and despite not be able to get it done, be able to come just that close of winning that whole sectional title.
Yeah. It's still so fresh. We were super proud of the way that they fought back. I mean, they had a definite choice to make at the end of the second set, and they chose to fight back and looked so good in sets 3 and 4, and really played well in the 5th. And just one of those things that down toward the end, Heritage was better than we were. And that is just the way sports go sometimes, but we were so proud of them, and to be that close makes it so hard. But I think it was such a growth opportunity for them, and something that they're all going to definitely learn from. It just spoke so much to, just the grit that they have and how badly they want to win to come back from being down 0-2.
This is Kayla Hunter, the head girls volleyball coach of the Norwell Knights. They went 20-13 on the season, one of their best seasons in quite some time. Finished in the top half of or at least the middle of the pack of the Northeast State. A very tough Northeast State, no less, with as always is for the volleyball conference and whatnot. Coach, when you look back at the 2024 Norwell Knights as a whole, what are some memories that still arise in terms of your memory of this team?
From this season, you're saying, or all 6?
I mean, you can do in both in general, but I was meaning more of this season.
Okay, yeah. I mean, overall, it's just cool to see the growth over the past 6 years. But this season, so many cool moments. Hard to pick just one, but I think just in general, there have been so many cool moments of just this team really loves each other. They're just a group that they support each other so well. And it's just kind of cool to think of those little moments, whether it's on or off the court, of them just celebrating each other, being good teammates, just enjoying the game. Those are just some of the ones that are special. And I think that they'll remember longer than some of the moments on the court as well.
Mm-hmm. Last question from me, Coach, as you prepare for the off season and a period of reflection and period of transition to this off season, whatnot, what are things that you're excited about with the future of the program? You talked about the growth of the program, whatnot. You still got a lot of players coming back for this coming season, 2025. It'll be here before you know it. Talk about the excitement about what things could be in store for next year.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting as you look forward. I mean, we'll lose 3 seniors, 2 that played a really significant role, and all of the juniors that will come back are hungry, to say the least. I think they were coming in this year, and especially now, having the success we had in the regular season, but then kind of finishing the way that they did, they are, I think, going to come back with a real kind of chip on their shoulder and just a little bit of extra will to win. I think in the off season, we'll just focus on a lot of fundamentals and kind of sharpening some of those things. And then just really getting them to play at a high level all the time. We worked a lot on consistency in their play this year, and they improved a lot by the end of the season, but really getting them to want to play at that championship level all the time, no matter who's on the other side of the court.
All right, that is nice to hear. We will be looking forward to see where the program goes next year as well. Coach, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, just thank you for taking the interest in the girls, and I just feel super grateful to be part of the program. It's been really neat to get to kind of have the front seat and watch them develop, because they're just such a fun group to be a part of.
All right, that is Kayla Hunter, the head girls volleyball coach of the Norwell Knights. They finished their season 2013 as they prepare for the off season. Coach, congrats on a good season and good luck in the off season.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the ANEC Sports Podcast. We would like to thank our following guests for coming on to the show today, and that includes the following: Britton Isaacs, the head girls basketball coach at East Snowball; Hunter Sosenheimer of SummitCity Sports; Grayson Bradberry, the senior quarterback and pitcher at Columbia City; Ryan Stellhorn, the head boys soccer coach of the Angola Hornets; and Kayla Hunter, the head girls volleyball coach of the Norwell Knights. We are in a transition phase at this point where the fall season is in the postseason at this point, or they're in the off season for some of the other sports. We are also transitioning over to the winter season, as the first day of girls basketball practices took place today, as well as the first ever practices for girls wrestling. So as we shift over to the winter season, we will put our focus over to basketball and to wrestling, and then any other guests that come in between the fall off season and now will depend on how things play out for the show each week. So again, thank you again for coming on to the ANEC Sports Podcast. Thank you for listening and coming and watching this week's episode of the ANEC Sports Podcast. Tune in next week for a new episode of the ANEC Sports Podcast as we get things wrapped up on the fall sports season and get ready for a new season of basketball and wrestling. So until next time, this is Sam Fritz saying so long. Thank you for watching the ANEC Sports Podcast. Please like this video and like the page ANEC Sports on YouTube. Let people know that the ANEC Sports is on YouTube. Also like our Facebook page at Around the Northeast Corner, and follow either Around the Northeast Corner and Sam Frick on Twitter. @. We're also on Instagram as well. Just look for ANEC Sports or Around the Northeast Corner, and you will find us there. You can also follow the man himself, Sam Frick, the founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, for other additional content. This has been an Around the Northeast Corner presentation.